I have a question for you, my subscribers. It's a question that I've asked myself in the past. Um, I have one guy just a little bit ahead of the other one historically, but I don't have any arguments if one guy has uh, the other one ahead of the one I think is better overall. But who do you think is the greatest center of all time? Do you believe that it's Wilt Chamberlain, or do you believe it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Or if you think another center is the greatest center of all time, who do you think is the better of the two centers presented here? I mean, the case for each one is tremendous. I mean, if you look at Wilt Chamberlain, I think he's the most dominant player of all time. I mean, everybody knows the records. 7 times he led the NBA in scoring. A career 30.06 scoring average, just slightly behind Michael Jordan all-time in scoring. A 50-point game season, the 100-point game. To me, that's the most impressive record he had, the 55 rebounds in one game. And memory serves correctly, did that against Bill Russell, who himself is second all-time in rebounding, both in total rebounds and rebounding average. The record field goal percentage for one season, 72.7, which Tyson Chandler is flirting with breaking this year so far. That's something to look forward to. I don't know. I don't think he's going to do it, but yeah. But I mean, Wilt just phenomenal. I mean, I think he's probably the strongest player that ever played in the NBA. Career averages 30.1 points per game, 22.9 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists per game, 54% shooting from the field. I guess Wilt's one great weakness was free throw shooting. Only a 51% career free throw shooter. You look at his resume: 4-time MVP, 2 times NBA champion. I believe he was a All-Star 13 times. I'm not so sure about the 1969-70 season where he missed most of that year. I don't know if he was voted an All-Star. I doubt it. So I think he was a 13-time All-Star out of 14 years played. Then you have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the all-time leading scorer, 38,387 points, third all-time in rebounding. I believe he has, I can't be certain of this, but I believe he has the most career assists of any center. Although a lot of that's due to his longevity, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I guess I'm not certain of that, but I think he does. Over 5,000 career assists. I mean, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you can make the argument that he's the greatest basketball player of all time. And I think he's the greatest basketball player of all time in a lot of ways. That's why, I kind of feel like he's, in my opinion, the superior player. Although that doesn't include the NBA, that adds to his argument. I think he's also just has a better overall resume than Wilt. I think he's the greatest high school basketball player of all time. I think he's the greatest collegiate player of all time. They actually had to outlaw dunking in the 1960s, which they never said it, but it was because of it was an attempt to slow down Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They didn't want him breaking all the damn records. Some people may say, okay, well, what about Pete Maravich? And, Pete Maravich was tremendous in college. I mean, the numbers he put up were astronomical, but, he wasn't winning like Kareem. And let's be fair, you have to remember who the coach was at LSU when Pete was playing. I mean, come on. I mean, let's be a little bit honest on that one, okay? I think Kareem was the greatest collegiate player of all time, and when it comes to professional ranks, Kareem has one of the greatest resumes ever. And if you think that Kareem's the greatest basketball player of all time, even in the NBA, I can make the argument for my guy, but I really wouldn't care. I mean, there's three guys who I really don't care if you think they're the greatest: Kareem, Wilt, and Michael. Their resumes are so strong that those three, I really don't care if you think either of the other guys the greatest. But Kareem, his career averages 24.6 points per game, I believe 11.1 rebounds per game, 3.6 assists per game, remarkable 55.9% shooting percentage. And that was really hurt a little bit by his last two seasons when he really started declining as a player. Before that, his field goal percentage was closer to 57% shooting. He was phenomenally accurate from the field. He was a good free throw shooter for a big man, 72%. Just his resume, 6 MVPs, 6 championships. He was a 19-time All-Star. And, his resume to me is just incredible. And their head-to-head matchups, I believe they're pretty much half and half as far as wins, even if you include the postseason. I think if you include the postseason and regular season, I believe Kareem comes ahead by like 1 game or something like that, as far as wins and losses. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I'm not really looking at any numbers right now. But if you look at overall numbers, Kareem had the distinct advantage as far as scoring. Wilt had an advantage as far as rebounding. Passing, I believe, is kind of a wash between the two. If anything, I think Wilt may have had a little advantage there. Blocks is the one area where, when the blocks were counted, Wilt had a distinct advantage. And in field goal percentage, I believe Wilt had the advantage as well. Although Wilt didn't take as many shots as Kareem did. Also, you have to take into account that when these guys were going against each other, Kareem was in his mid-20s while Wilt was in the twilight of his career. So, take into effect as far as why the scoring disparity was so large between the two. And also Wilt was, by that time, the third and perhaps fourth option on his team, while with the Milwaukee Bucks, Kareem was the undisputed number 1 option. So, who do you think is the greatest of these two centers, in your opinion? Like I said, I believe it's probably Kareem. I believe it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Some people believe that Wilt was the greater player. It depends on what you're looking at. You can make the argument that this is what I would argue if I thought it was Wilt. Well, Kareem is the all-time leading scorer, 38,387. But take a look at this, though. Despite the fact that Wilt missed an entire season due to injury, just about, Uh, in really 13 seasons, even though it's listed as 14 seasons, 13 seasons and some games, he put up 31,419 points. Now, in over 6 seasons more played, Kareem only put up 7,000 more points. Actually, a little bit less than that. So, really, Wilt probably would have scored over 40,000 points had he played as long as Kareem. I mean, Kareem wasn't the rebounder that Wilt Chamberlain was. Wilt's the only non-guard to ever lead the NBA in passing. He was, you could say, more overall, quote-unquote, skilled than Kareem. Some people might say that or whatever. And just the dominance, the sheer dominance that Wilt Chamberlain displayed throughout his entire great career, especially in his prime, from 1959 to, I'd say, 68 or something like that. He was a phenomenal player during that period of time. But like I said, with Kareem, I think it was the remarkable consistency. And you could also make the argument that Kareem probably was more clutch. If you watch their careers and see how they performed in certain situations. A lot of Kareem's greatest moments came during the playoffs. And also, one of the greatest arguments one can make for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he had the most unstoppable shot in NBA history. Some people like to talk about Michael Jordan's fadeaway, and I love Michael, but it's the most unstoppable shot in NBA history was the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar skyhook.